This week's episode of Panel of Amateurs is brought to you by Locke and Stache Media of Springfield, Missouri. At Locke and Stache, we believe each story has its own motion, and when it's told right, the ability to move others. For any media needs, contact Locke and Stache at lockeandstache.com. That's Locke, spelled L-O-C-K-E, and Stache, as in mustache.com.
Don't forget, we're still doing our giveaway. Once we reach 100 YouTube subscribers, we'll be giving away a gift card to one lucky subscriber just in time for the holiday season. So don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe our podcast with all your friends and family this holiday season. Today on the show, we discuss what's in the news, the question of the week from last week, and our spoilery review of The Arrival. We're going to have a special guest in for this review this week, but we're going to jump right into the news.
Theme song goes here. Don't forget to put the theme song in.
Peter, in the news this week, some very interesting trailers were released. The first trailers for Beauty and the Beast live action, Ghost in the Shell, and Valarian City of 1,000 Planets. We also got an international trailer for Star Wars Rogue One, and we also got some news that Fox could possibly be soft rebooting the X-Men universe.
That's horrible news. Can we just start there real fast? The soft reboot. I know we want to talk about the trailers real fast.
No,
first,
but we can jump into the soft
reboot. Just
reboot
start. Okay, so in this article, they talked about having Michael Fassbender and Jennifer Lawrence and the guy who's playing Xavier. I forget his name.
James McAvoy.
James McAvoy coming back and soft rebooting this franchise. Is that even a reboot if you're using the same actors for the same characters?
It's not, and I thought they rebooted the franchise with X-Men First Class.
Right.
Like, I feel like if you're gonna do start all the way over. Start all the way over.
But okay, on that thread, Spider-Man and the Amazing Spider-Man, is it the newer ones with the whinier Spider-Man? I feel like they've gotten really whiny with Spider-Man. But my point is here, they trashed Tobey Maguire. Is that his name? Yeah, mm-hmm. Tobey Maguire, and got this new kid, and they gave us the same origin story-ish. Again, was it worth it for Spider-Man?
Well, I mean, first off, you couldn't continue on with Tobey Maguire because that third Spider-Man film they did was
Emo Spider-Man?
Emo Spider-Man. Peter,
no, it's not.
He's joking. Not. He is completely joking. Tobey Maguire was at 40 at that point. So unless you're going to tell 40-year-old Peter Parker stories, it was time to move on and give somebody else a chance. I don't have an issue rebooting and starting over. They do it all the time with James Bond, and no one complains about it.
No one complains
that they change James Bond's actors. So I don't care that they're like, if you're going to do a reboot, jump all in and reboot the entire thing. We've said it numerous times that this timeline is so out of whack and so confusing. This is the last Wolverine film for
Hugh Jackman.
For Hugh Jackman.
And the last Xavier role for Patrick Stewart as well.
So why not just move on after this? The article says that the reboot won't affect projects that are already in the works like Deadpool 2, Gambit, X-Force. And why not just tie them into the new timeline?
I forgot there was a Gambit movie coming out.
It's got Channing Tatum in it, so
So women are gonna see it, and then I'm not probably. No, I'll probably see it.
We're gonna see it.
I really liked Gambit growing up, but that's not the point of this conversation. The point is, if you're gonna reboot. You don't say, "Oh, I'm gonna just restart my computer." If you're going to reboot it, you're going to take it all the way off and you're going to turn it all the way back on.
Do you realize that most kids this generation, or the fans of these films, think that Mystique is A, huge character in that universe, and B, a good guy?
Yeah, that's a little weird because I didn't know who Mystique was before the first X-Men film came out. Mm-hmm. I was like, oh, this is a cool new character I never even saw before. So
you didn't see her in the 90s cartoon?
I don't recall seeing her. And I recently rewatched most of the 90s cartoon via digital means. Actually, they had it on Netflix for a while, the 90s cartoon, all the seasons. But I was only watching it on Saturdays because I couldn't bring myself to watch a Saturday morning cartoon on a Thursday. uh, I really was. I was watching it on Saturday mornings, eating a bowl of cereal. It was great. It was a great time. But I don't recall seeing her, at least very often. But like you said, she's not a huge character, nor is she a good guy. She is on the team, on the side of Eric or Magneto and the Brotherhood, and bringing mutants to a higher power than the humans, and basically wiping out the humans is kind of the Brotherhood's forte, I would say.
And I think that with this incarnation of X-Men, I think the first X-Men film with Bryan Singer came out in early 2000s, 2002, somewhere around there, 2002, somewhere around there. I mean, they've been a part of these characters, not necessarily Jennifer Lawrence, Michael Fassbender, but this incarnation of the X-Men they've had 14 plus years to tell their story. Why not just completely?
We did it with Batman.
Move on.
With the Batman franchise, we had Michael Keaton Batman, George Clooney Batman. I can't think of any other Batmans right now.
Christian Bale.
Well, I'm thinking before Christian Bale.
Okay.
Before that, we had the '90s Batmans, and then we had a reboot, and we got a new-ish origin story where we had more background on his fighting style, and we had the Christian Bale era. It's possible to reboot and use a different actor, but have the same characters and have the same story. Like you said with James Bond, every time we get a new actor, we get a new storyline that now they're kind of linking them together better. But in the past, these were one-off films that were just fun. They had gadgets and they were exciting. So these new comic book stories, they don't all have to link together. They have to fit in the same universe and things have to make sense, but they don't need to be a one continuous storyline.
Well, and also on top of that, do we need an origin story for every, especially when you're rebooting a film franchise? We know Superman's origin story. You don't have to tell us that at every single time. We know Batman's origin story. They don't spend, they may give you a 2-minute clip at the beginning of a movie, just in case for that one person who's been living in a rock for 50 years.
It's probably for like the 5-year-old whose parents just let him watch this for the first time, and they're not like super in tune with the storyline. And so instead of saying, "Hey kid, this is where Batman came from," they say, "Oh yeah, I'll take you to see that movie." That's who it's for. It's for that like 5 to 10-year-old who's not really sure what's going on.
But the point is, they don't have to make a 2.5-hour film about how certain characters got started.
Right.
If you ask you can ask random people, "Hey, how did Spider-Man get his powers?" And they'll tell you he got bit by a spider of some sort. Whether they saw that in the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man films, whether they read it in a comic, most people...
Or the 90s cartoon intro, the intro to the cartoon gives it away.
Most people know this. Batman, most people know. So there are certain characters that you don't have to tell their origin story every time you reboot the franchise. And I think the X-Men are a part of that group of characters where... you have way too many characters to be able to tell
it's a huge universe.
all of their origin stories. But that core group, Wolverine, Professor X, Cyclops, you don't need to start at the beginning. You can reboot this franchise with new actors, new characters, and start midway through. Midway through.
Yeah. You can
get flashbacks to origins, but you don't have to do an entire
right. Well, and you can start like with the X-Men team already assembled, and they already have the Blackbird, and they're doing missions. We don't have to go, "Oh, hey, we're all mutants, and we are here together. Maybe we should start a team." We don't even need that much of an origin. We just need them to be there. And if we let's say like the 1990s cartoon, the very first story that they tell is that they have found Jubilee,
Mm-hmm.
and they're gonna go and Professor X and I believe Jean goes with them, and they bring Jubilee back to the school. Well, then she runs away, and so they go to see what happened. She went to the mall, and the Sentinels find her. But at this point, we're just following the story of one new mutant, and everyone else is already a full team. That like Cyclops is obviously the leader, and we have Morph, who is the friendly renegade, who in the cartoon gets killed but doesn't get killed. He comes back like in a later season, and
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. But the point of this is that even when they started that TV show, they started in the middle, and we don't really need to know where everybody came from.
And that's exactly what you can do. You can start kind of like the cartoon did, where you've got a team that's already established, and the origin story that you're telling is actually on this mutant they're trying to go and protect, or they're in a certain battle and they know that there's a mutant out there that has the skills that they need, that they can recruit. You don't have to start all the way over. X-Men First Class was one of the best films in this universe, but I don't need you to do it again.
I think that's the only one that I actually own is First Class. I didn't buy any of the other ones.
Yeah, I don't need you to do it again. And I are probably one of the few people that I have not enjoyed Jennifer Lawrence's Mystique. And I know that she is probably the most box office of those names that we gave out. But I don't need an X-Men franchise with her in it.
Yeah, I'll be okay without it.
I'll be okay if you move away, if you give someone else the opportunity to play Wolverine. I think that James Bond is the perfect example of that. People will move on. We all have our favorite Bonds. Well, I like this Bond better than this Bond. Why not give us the opportunity to say, I appreciate that I can say, well, I like this Spider-Man, but I like Tobey's Spider-Man the best. Or I like, this Superman.
Like Christopher Reeve's Superman versus
Henry Cavill.
I was like, Cavill is his first
Brandon
name.
Routh.
Yeah.
I think that is the best part of some of the movie-going experiences, is that over a certain amount of time, you get to see different takes on it and who does this better, or what. It's kind of like being a sports fan. Your incarnation of you like this era better because of whatever reason. Well, I like this brand of Batman better, or I like this Spider-Man better, or this, some people will say, well, I like James McAvoy's Professor X better. I don't know who would say that, but
yeah,
there might be someone out there.
I really just hate Patrick Stewart as an actor in general. That's why I like James McAvoy better. I don't. I'm just kidding. Gosh.
You can leave Peter all the comments down in the comment section and let him know how you feel about what he just said.
This really harkens back to comic books in general, though, because these series that have lasted decades, they don't have the same artists, they don't have the same writers. Even the person who is putting the inked lines on the pencil lines changes issue to issue.
Origin stories change.
Yeah, origin stories change. But so it is, and in this same thread, you can say, well, I really like this artist's version of Batman versus this artist's version, or this artist's version of the Wolverine comics versus the way that they portray him with the rest of the team. That's the bathroom. We're in next to the bathroom.
And I think that certain companies understand this and certain companies don't. And what I mean by what they understand is certain companies understand that it is not the actor that sells this movie. No one went to see the original Iron Man and went, Robert Downey Jr. is in this. We have to go see it.
Yeah, because he was a has-been at that point.
He was a has-been at that point. Iron Man actually gave him a career again. No one is going to see the X-Men movies because, Michael Fassbender is in this movie. Name me a film that Michael Fassbender has done outside of the X-Men.
Well, I have IMDb, so I can look that up. Real fast.
But you couldn't name
No.
it off the top of your head, is what I'm
No,
saying.
I mean I've seen him before. Like I recognized him
Yes,
when they brought him back.
They've done other projects.
Yeah.
But for instance, Captain America. Who plays Captain America?
A guy who is pretty fit. Should I know? I feel like I should know who it is. He's probably famous.
Well, he's famous for playing Captain America. Outside of Captain America, he played Johnny. Somebody out there go, well, he played Johnny Storm.
He was Johnny Storm in Fantastic Four.
In Fantastic Four.
That was not a good movie.
I'm still waiting for you to come up with the answer.
What his name is?
Yeah.
Oh, you want me to look on IMDb?
No, I know his name. I'm waiting.
Chris. It's Chris, starts with H.
Nope.
No. Chris. I mean, me and Chris were on first name basis. So.
Okay. All right. Well, that part I forgot. So when you guys being on a first name basis, what the point I'm trying to make is that it doesn't matter if they recast Iron Man tomorrow. The next Iron Man film is going to gross $1 billion.
Yeah, people are gonna go see it.
So
because it's Iron Man, because of the story, not because a lot of people now are attached to Robert Downey Jr. for sure.
They're gonna gripe, they're gonna complain,
but then they're gonna see it and then say, "Oh, that wasn't so bad," and then they'll tell their friends, and then they'll see it, and it's just gonna be the same kind of box office hit that they always are.
Because we're going
even
to see,
when they suck, Iron Man 2
and partially 3
and partial 3.
We're going to see the title, not necessarily the actor. When we go see a Batman film, even if we think that it's a bad casting choice, we're going to go see it and then go, oh, well, they didn't do that, but they did a pretty good job. So if that goes back to around to X-Men, if you're going to reboot it, just reboot the entire thing. Don't try and, because that's why you're stuck now, is them wanting to include Wolverine in every single movie. Have to have some sort of flashback to Wolverine
or some kind of little cameo or whatever.
So now you've been stuck into this universe when you could have had an entire reboot with X-Men First Class and did whatever you wanted after that. But your continuous inclusion, and don't get me wrong, he's been great as Wolverine. But I'd be okay with somebody else giving it a shot.
Yeah, I'm fine with that too. All right, so let's move on to the trailers now. Since we exhausted that topic, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest. You and I could probably talk about that for another 30 minutes easily, because we're going to go back and forth.
People are going to start to think that we don't actually like
Fox's X-Men franchise.
No, well, anything besides Marvel. Those are really the only ones we have anything good to say. But if they would do better, we wouldn't have to kill them every week.
I still like the Christian Bale Batman trilogy.
No, that was best, probably the best superhero trilogy there's been so far. From top to bottom. Because if you want to, people are going to say, well, what about Captain America?
Right.
Yeah, but from top to bottom, because Captain America, the first Avenger?
Right, the first Avenger. It's a movie.
It was a movie. It introduced us to the character again.
Then Winter Soldier comes in, and it's like, oh, hey, that's a movie. There we go.
Yeah. But if I had to, if I'm putting those two together, I wouldn't say that the Winter Soldier is better than the Dark Knight. It was good.
Yeah.
But Dark Knight, Dark Knight. One day we'll rank our favorite comic book movies.
Oh man.
And see how our lists compare. But I wouldn't say it's better than Dark Knight. All right, so moving on to the trailers. The first one that I got to take a look at this week was Beauty and the Beast live action. So the effects look good, like the chip and the clock and the candelabra.
Yeah. Lumiere and Cogsworth.
They all
Mrs. Potts. I know the characters pretty well.
it all looks good, but the question I have for you is: are the themes too adult in live action?
Oh, because you're talking about how Belle's basically kidnapped by the Beast and then falls in love with him.
Like she's forced.
Also known as Stockholm Syndrome.
Also known as Stockholm Syndrome. So she's kidnapped, forced to live there, and she ends up falling in love with him. Commonly known again as Stockholm Syndrome. Is that a theme? Because let's be honest, that movie's not for us.
No, it's not. I mean, I'm going to see it because I grew up watching Beauty and the Beast, and I really enjoyed it, and I still enjoy it because it's the musical nature of it. Is this going to be a musical, do you know?
From everything? Well, did you see The Jungle Book?
I saw a lot of trailers.
So it had 2 songs in it from the cartoon. Now, I don't remember if the cartoon was full of songs, but I do remember.
It has a lot.
This had 2 songs, and I think that this Beauty and the Beast is supposed to have more music in it than that one did. So it'll be based on, it'll have more. They're even adding songs that weren't in the original.
So like the ones that came from the Broadway play.
I believe that's what I read.
Yeah. Okay.
But are the themes too adult? For the 8-year-old little girl that this is aimed at?
Then, okay, so if you're asking that question, then also, are the themes of loss in Toy Story too adult for...
But is that something that we get as adults? And kids don't get that.
That's what I'm getting at, though.
But in a live-action version, Toy Story is not live action. It's still a cartoon to children.
I guess I see your point there, for sure. I think that people are just going to look past it. They're going to see it and say, Emma Watson and Beauty and the Beast. So they're like, oh, Hermione's in it. Cool. And they're going to say, Beauty and the Beast, I love that movie. So I think that the themes of it are going to get washed over by nostalgia and casting.
For you and I. But for, again, the 5-year-old, 8-year-old little girl that's going to see that, or let's not take the theme, because maybe they still don't get the theme. But is the live-action version too scary? You see the way the Beast looks.
The Beast looks pretty rough.
The scene with the wolves where they're attacking Belle, is that, like, it's one thing to see that as a cartoon, but is that going to be something that's way too out there for, again, the
5 to 8-year-old,
the masses of 5 to 8-year-old little girls that are going to be in the theater with these 2 adult men? Why?
Wait, what?
Watching Peter.
You and I. Okay, I was like, hold on, what's going on with these little girls and adult men?
You're taking our show to a completely
in the
different level once
wrong
again.
spot again. 2 weeks in a row. Yes, you and I will be the only ones in there. There's gonna be parents, right? I mean, hopefully they don't just like drop
weird
off
already. But
yeah, it's already weird to drop off your child at a movie theater when they're under the age of 12 to see movies by themselves. But I don't think that they're going to catch on to that at all.
Nothing. You don't think it's just... Well,
and we analyze things for fun.
When I saw the Jungle Book, so in the Jungle Book, they basically, some of these animals looked like live act, like there wasn't the only thing that was CGI was their mouths moving to
whatever the voiceover was.
Whatever the voiceover was. But like that tiger looked menacing and scary. I just don't think that it comes across the same way in live action as it does as a cartoon. You know, Disney is going through this whole thing where they're a lot of their classic cartoons they're putting in live action. There's even a Lion King in the works. Think about that scene.
Like where Scar pushes Mufasa off the cliff?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, no. Why are they remaking The Lion King?
They're making it because of the success.
Yeah, they're just of the Jungle Book, so they make the Beauty and the
let's
Beast.
do everything. Mulan is getting a live action version.
No, are you kidding me?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Soon it's gonna be there's a Donald Duck cartoon where he goes to Mexico and there's like 3 parrots. It's not the 3 Amigos, that's a better film. The 3 Compadres, Tres Compadres, something like that. They're going to make a live action one of that where a duck is walking around talking to 3 parrots. in Mexico.
They're gonna make a live action version of.
And then Johnny Depp's gonna come in and be like, I need some pork, some slow roasted pork.
No, they are making. I'm sure we're gonna get a Disney princesses. All those. I mean, obviously we're getting one now with Beauty and the Beast.
Oh, the Little Mermaid is totally next.
We're getting a little. I guarantee we're gonna get all of those, especially if these movies keep doing well, which I don't.
What about Snow White? Are we gonna be able to do Snow White?
They did Snow White already.
And the Huntsman.
But no, there was one that came out parallel to that was also Snow White.
Like, and the dwarves and everything.
Yes.
And they called them dwarves, and then people weren't like, oh my gosh, political correctness.
Yes, there was one that came out parallel. They almost came out at the exact same time.
Right, and one had Twilight Girl in it, didn't it?
That was Snow White and the Huntsman.
Huntsman, okay. And then, I don't know, was there I know there was another one. What was it called? There was another one that came out at the same time, though, right?
Yep. Is there anything that you would want to see them do live action?
I mean, Beauty and the Beast was like my favorite Disney. Oh, Aladdin.
That'd be one they could do live action.
That'd be cool. Get the genie, but then everyone will compare the genie's performance to Robin Williams. I don't think it'll go over well.
I mean, obviously, in this Beauty and the Beast live action, Hermione is not the same voice actor from before.
The voice actor, though, for the Beast, he is almost spot on, matching how the Beast sounded in the cartoon. At least in the trailer, from what I heard. I actually paused it and said, wait, is that the same guy? And looked it up, and obviously not. The gentleman who played the original Beast, his name's Robbie Benson, and our new Beast, I believe his name is like Dan or Daniel something, Daniel Radcliffe, I don't know. I'm just kidding.
When our listeners increase, they're going to roast you for some of these things.
They're going to be like, why? His name's Dan Stevens. What's wrong with you, Peter? Dan Stevens.
Maybe you're on a first name only basis with him too.
Me and Dan, we go out hanging out, talking about, Beauty and the Beast stuff all the time. But yeah, Dan Stevens is that actor's name.
So after seeing the trailer, does that make you want to see it more, or is it still about the same?
About the same. It's more like I'm going to see it because it's Beauty and the Beast, and maybe the same reason I'm going to see Gambit, because X-Men movie, and I like the X-Men.
Gotcha. So we also got a trailer for Ghost in the Shell, which is based off the 90s anime. There was also a video game version that was released on the GameCube. It stars Scarlett Johansson. I thought the trailer looked great.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I didn't know that was a question. I'm just kidding. Yes, we talked about this before, I believe, that trailers can look really good. Like, that is the job of a trailer company, is to make the movie look exciting and worth watching. However, after watching this whole trailer, I watched it twice just so I can make sure I was catching everything that I needed to. It feels a lot like Aeon Flux and Ultraviolet, which both came out in the 2005, 2006 era time, where it's a mediocre adaptation of an anime to Western audiences.
And it's got two strikes against it, or two things that don't lend very well to being a good movie. It's a video game adaptation and an anime adaptation. Two things that that we don't do very well.
Yeah, we're not very good at it.
Domestically, when we try to remake one of these properties. My other question is, I've seen a few movies where Scarlett Johansson is the lead, and it never turns out very well. So can Scarlett Johansson carry this prime example? The trailer for Lucy
looked awesome.
Awesome.
I was really excited to see that movie.
But the movie itself was terrible.
Yeah.
Is that more of what we're getting from Scarlett Johansson.
I don't know if it's Scarlett Johansson in particular that is the issue. Is maybe the roles that she's picking and with the writing, which I guess then becomes she's the issue
because she's the one picking it.
So yeah, I just think this film is gonna be like a 5. I'll catch it if it's on TV. Just from the trailer, I'm already saying catch it on TV, because it's going to be what it looks like from the trailer, the same kind of success as Aeon Flux and Ultraviolet. And by success, I mean they're going to break even and be happy with it.
And I think, and this goes into the trailer we're going to talk about next, but it's one of those things where I want a movie where I can just go in, get that movie, and be done with it. And you can tell just about every movie nowadays, especially these sci-fi, big budget CG fest, it's all about developing a franchise where they can get 3 or 4 movies, maybe split the last movie up into 2, get some extra money, and they leave all these questions unanswered. But then when the movie flops, if you've seen the movie, you never get the end of that story. And it's kind of like that you said about James Bond. Sometimes I just want a one-off film.
Right.
Where I go in, I eat my popcorn,
watch some cool gadgets, see something fun happen, get a story that I don't have to think too much about when I leave. Maybe it triggers some thoughts like about the world around me, but not, oh, I wonder what happened to this character. Like, it'd be nice to not care about what happens to that character.
And if you end up making a boatload of money, then you come back in and you tell a different story. But there doesn't have to be all these unanswered questions and things like that. This is not a TV series. I don't know that I want to invest the next 10 years of my life waiting for these movies to come out so I can figure out who ended up with who, or who survived this, or who did that. I just want a story. Like I said, that leads us into the next trailer, Valarian, City of a Thousand Planets. Title's too long.
I keep wanting to say House of a Thousand Corpses just because,
I admittedly don't know much about this property or this project. Mm-hmm. But again, the trailer looked great.
Well, and I believe Valarian is a graphic novel. Mm-hmm. And we're getting a lot of comic book and graphic novel adaptations now. And I'm thinking that it's coming off of the back of the success of all these Marvel films and all the DC films, even though they're not that great right now. They can be better. But a lot of people are seeing like, oh, this is a thing that we can do. We have The Walking Dead, which is a graphic novel adaptation. There's another AMC adaptation coming out soon.
They've also got The Preacher on AMC.
Yeah, The Preacher just started. Yeah. And then I believe it's called Southern Bastards is a new one that's coming out as well. At least it's in production right now, which is also a graphic novel that is being adapted. And so right now people are, it used to be, oh, we're going to adapt this book. We have all the Stephen King books that have been adapted, the Michael Crichtons that have been adapted, the Jane Austen books that have been redone over and over throughout the decades. And so it feels like everyone's grabbing whatever slightly unknown graphic novel they can find at their local comic book store and saying, hey, there's some cool art in here. I bet we can make a movie off of that.
And in some ways, I actually think that's smart because with, characters like Superman, Batman, and I know those are big, big characters, but with graphic novels, books, you've got a built-in audience before you even start rolling in production.
Right.
You've got free marketing because if I've read that book before, I'm like, Peter, man, this book was amazing. I'm sure the film is going to be amazing too.
No, you wouldn't say that. You know what you're going to say. This book was so good. I hope the movie is at least a 7.
I hope the movie doesn't suck. But it is going to bring up a dialogue where you've got people who may be talking about your movie before it comes out. And I think nowadays the tagline based on is drawing people in. Because as humans, and we'll get into humans later on when we review our movie for this week, but we don't want to miss on anything. We don't want to be the odd man out. We want to be in the in crowd. So when people get to talking about, well, did you read the book or have you seen this? We want to be in the know. So that based on this or this came from this, we automatically think, well, this is based on a book. That book must have been really good, and a million people must have read it. So I think it's smart to grab. Now you want to grab things that make sense or things that'll be interesting to people. Valarian, I don't know that it's something that I'm gonna go see. Now the guy who directed.
Is it he's the director for this film?
The guy who directed The Fifth Element
Right.
is also directing this. Now that movie was great in its time. Now I don't know if I watch it again today.
It's still pretty good. I actually never saw it when it first came out.
Mm-hmm.
My wife was pretty mad that I hadn't seen it, and so she made me watch it one day. It still holds up pretty well.
Okay, so I would give it a chance based on that. But I mean, the simple reason that we're even reviewing the trailer is because it's based on a graphic novel.
Right.
So had it not been, we wouldn't even be talking about it today. So I do think that is smart for Hollywood to be going in that direction. However, that is stopping us from getting original ideas. So next week I'll complain about why we're not getting anything original.
Any original
and then
ideas.
You can go back to this episode.
And I'll say, remember last week when you were talking about how next week you were going to do this and how I should do this? Yeah, I did it.
Time is non-linear, Peter. I already knew that was going to happen. That's why I'm saying it this week.
Oh, man. Spoiler
alert. So in the last little bit of trailer news, we also got an international Rogue One trailer. Where we see the Death Star fire, some kyber crystals, some of the few things we hadn't got in the other trailers, but nothing really substantial. Are you excited about Rogue One?
Of course. I actually took a paid holiday off for December 16th for the release of Rogue One, so I can go and I can watch it on the 15th at the midnight release and then sleep the next day and not go to work.
Are you gonna dress up for Star Wars Rogue One?
I mean, I have a lightsaber, so I might as well take that with me.
Is that dressing up though?
I mean, what am I gonna wear? I don't have a captain's uniform from the Death Star or anything.
Do you have a robe? Because Jedi's just wear robes.
I mean, I have a bathrobe, but it's blue. It doesn't have a hood or anything. I mean, I guess I have like a month. I can fashion a robe from some cardboard.
See, there you go.
It'll be very stiff robe, but it'll work.
No,
wait, are you gonna dress up?
No, Peter.
Oh, I guess I should have just said maybe, and then you could have left it at that.
I'm not gonna dress up, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't. Just because I want to be on the outside looking in, doesn't mean that you shouldn't dress up.
Are you saying that our episode that week is gonna be you didn't dress up and I did, and the reactions that we got from people? Is that what's happening now?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah, we have a month. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
No, I want to see this film, and I actually want this film to do well, so that we can, as much as I love, and I have to say this first, as much as I love the Skywalker family story we've been getting. I'd like to see, this is a universe. I want to see, if you're going to build a universe, I want to see things happen outside of that one family. The things that, and you can tie it together to say, well, this was happening while this was going on. I think it'll be interesting to be able to see those things go down. Because if this doesn't work, all we're going to get are offshoots of the main
story. Still linking to the Skywalker family in some way.
And people are going to say, well, Darth Vader's in it, so this does.
Yeah.
But
he's in it because the Death Star's in it, not because we're following what he's doing. Because we're following Jyn, I believe her name is, right?
Jyn Erso.
Yeah, Jyn Erso, and the rebels and how they're going to get the plans. And we talked about this before, I think, but it feels more like Darth Vader is a slightly long cameo in the film, maybe 10 minutes of this 2-hour film. He's not going to be there the whole time saying, like, where are the rebels and we shall get them. No, that was a horrible impression of Darth Vader. I
didn't know if you were going for Bane or Darth Vader. I was trying to figure out which one it was.
If you're going for Bane, you have to talk like you're going to pass out and cover your face. You speak of the devil. Yeah, that was...
Hey, look, we found a way to get Batman as this show. Another again this week.
Every week, man.
Every week we're getting our Batman. Almost like Superman is my favorite, but we get Batman in every single show.
That's because Batman's awesome.
So moving on from Batman. No. I'm excited
Rogue
about
One. Yeah,
Rogue One. I want it to do well so that we can get more and better stories in this universe outside of the main storyline.
And I would like it to do well so that I don't feel like I wasted my holiday pay. Because I took a holiday for it.
Because you took the holiday for it instead of just taking... it is a Friday.
It is a Friday.
It could have just went after work.
What if I close? Then I get off at like 9:30. Then I'm going to be tired because I worked all day.
I'm too tired for Star Wars?
No.
Exactly. Popped a hole in your theory.
Anyway, so moving on, we have question of the week.
From last week. Our question was...
The question was, what do you think is the best NES game? Not your favorite, but the best. So your favorite might have been Snake, Rattle, and Roll, which is a game that hardly anybody's heard of. Maybe you heard of it. I don't know. I've only played it one time. It wasn't good to me, but it could be someone's favorite game. The point is, we're looking for the best one. Now, we got some really long answers.
Well, let's give our answer first, and then that way we know that we said it before we heard it on the list.
Okay,
and then we'll go there. What was one game in mind, or however many you have? What did you think of?
All right, so I had two, and it's because it's two different genres. Final Fantasy, the first Final Fantasy game, because I think it opened up the market for top-down world RPGs and turn-based battling, and that's my reasoning for Final Fantasy. But then also,
I hated RPGs growing up.
That's fine. That's your fault. No. And then we had my other top, and not top, but the other best game was Super Mario Brothers 3. And like when I think NES, that is the first game that pops into my head as like the top game. I think it was even the top grossing game for the NES was Super Mario Brothers 3. And I'm gonna actually, I'll go back to that in a second. One of the answers is Super Mario Brothers 3, and he gives a really good explanation.
As to why.
So
okay.
and I agree with him on all points. So I'm gonna let him say that.
Okay. Well, on my list, I wouldn't say that this is my favorite, but every time when we were talking about the question of the week, it's what kept popping up to me. I want to go back and play Duck Hunt again, but I want to play it with weapons of today.
You want to have like AK-47, like stupid duck.
That's what I want to do, and I want it to be like where the dog will go pick up the duck and bring him back to you. Instead, I want him to be picking up like pieces of the duck. Like that's how I want to play it. But Duck Hunt, and for some reason, Excite Bike. Did you ever play Excite Bike?
Yeah, Excite Bike's great.
I used to spend an hour building a track that took like 10 seconds to ride on.
Yeah.
You spend all day, and then you figure out that loop that you went on. You didn't build it. See, they wanted us to understand engineering at that time, and we didn't understand engineering. We just wanted this big loop that we didn't understand, that we didn't have enough track to build up speed to get. So you'd fall off halfway before you got up the loop. But Excite Bike, those are two that I enjoy playing again.
All right, so going to the answers from you guys, our amateurs. Real fast before we get into that, I just want to clarify. We want to call you guys amateurs because this is a panel of amateurs, and two people does make a panel, but it's really great to have a lot more than just 2 on our panel. So we feel like you guys are part of this panel of amateurs.
You all make up the show, what we talk about, our discussing. A big part of our show is actually the question of the week. We get a lot of answers from you guys, so we just want to continue to include you in this panel of amateurs, our panel discussion. We do this for you guys.
And since you guys are part of this panel, you might as well share everything, the Facebooks, the Twitter, the YouTube posts that we have, because they're your posts too.
And we know that you want your panel to be successful.
Yeah, definitely. So going to the answers from the question of the week, the first one I have is from Thomas. And I'm just going to read this whole thing because it's pretty solid. He said, I feel like Super Mario Bros. 3 fits the bill. It returned to the roots of the first game and enhanced it in every conceivable way. It also laid the foundation for how so many more Mario games would come to be in the coming decades. It was graphically impressive at the time to see what the NES was capable of, and has some very memorable music and enemies, both of which have also become series staples. I want to touch on one thing real fast, is the music. When Super Mario Bros. 3 came out, before that, we have the 8-bit music that we all think of, like the Legend of Zelda theme, the original Super Mario Bros. 3 theme. And the way that they were using that, it takes, you can only play 3 notes at a time, the way they were processing on the chip. And so if you ever notice, like if you're playing Super Mario Brothers and you're listening to the music and you get a coin, parts of the music will stop to play the coin sound, because you can only play 3 sounds or notes at the same time. When Super Mario Bros. 3 came out, they figured out how to use sampling, which is basically where you take one sound and you can play it again at some other point. The most probably prominent example of this is Vanilla Ice, Ice Ice Baby. You have the Under Pressure bass line for that. So in Super Mario Bros. 3, the music, they have a calypso drum or a steel drum, and I think there's a whistle in there as well, that are beyond the 3 notes that you could normally play, using that sampling. And that's where you get the more memorable music, because there's something else that you couldn't have had before. And that's another thing why I think that Mario Bros. 3 is the best game, because it was innovative in sound, innovative in graphics, and in gameplay.
I'll be honest, I don't even remember Super Mario Bros. 2. Was there I don't even remember.
That's because Super Mario Bros. 1, we all know. Everyone knows that game. Super Mario Bros. 3, it's the similar type of game where you're running and jumping on these kind of platforms. Your enemies look the same. Super Mario Bros. 2, and there are so many videos about this on YouTube. Super Mario Bros. 2 is a ripoff of a game called Doki Doki Jump, where they use the same game. All the mechanics are the same. All the enemies are the same, and they put Mario skins on the characters that they had. And so you go and you play this game, on Mario 1 and 3, your goal is to save the princess. On Mario 2, there's not really a goal laid out at the beginning. Like you don't go and get into the first castle and say, oh, sorry, your princess isn't here. You beat the first level and there's this weird creature called Birdo is the name, that's shooting eggs at you, and then you have to jump on the eggs, and they're flying, and you have to like grab it while you're in the air and throw it back at the bird, and you're just like, well, what's the point? And then it turns out at the end, spoiler alert, this game's been out for 30 years. It's all a dream. It's a dream that Mario is having, which is the same ending for Doki Doki Jump. So the reason that you don't remember Super Mario Bros. 2 is
because
it's not a great game. Okay, wait, time out. The game itself is a pretty fun game. I do enjoy playing it. As a Mario franchise game, it does not fit. It does not go with anything else that comes out, like Super Mario World, even like further on, Super Mario 64, Super Mario Sunshine. These games are far different from Mario Bros. 2, and that's why you don't remember it, because it does not fit. It's like that game you play in kindergarten. One of these things is not like the other.
Gotcha.
And you can pick it out immediately. So that's our first answer. And we have a lot of answers on this week, but a lot of them are the same games. So we have from Jared and Megan, superfan Megan. And Superfan, ba, ba, ba. Also from Will, all of these amateurs, they said Duck Hunt, so they're on your boat there.
It was so, and I think it came attached. Well, the one I had was attached to a Super Mario Brothers,
right?
The original.
And then I think originally the games came out separately, and then for marketing purposes, they put them on the same cartridge.
Okay.
So that's how that worked. Then we have Josh, who says he spent countless hours playing Contra. Contra is one of the hardest games I've ever played in my life. There's a reason that people spend countless hours playing it, because it takes that long to beat it.
Yeah.
We have also from Glenn, and there was someone else.
Do you think it has become, as our minds have evolved and we play all these really fast-moving, visually stunning games, going back and playing the 8-bit NES games, do you think we should be better? Like, if you go back and pick up Contra, should it be super easy?
We're not better, though. And this is the reason why. So we had some friends in California, my wife and I, and their son came over with them, and he was playing Zelda. Mm-hmm. Zelda, you walk around and you stab things with a sword. When you have full life, you can shoot your sword with power, as the song by System of a Down goes. But the point is, when he was playing that game, there's a System of a Down song about Zelda. You can look it up. Maybe I'll link it in the description or something. It is great. But he was playing the game and he kept dying, and he was getting so frustrated. And I was watching him play, and what he was doing was, if you're playing, like, say, Oblivion, or what's another game with swords? I can't think. A Dragon.
I'm sure there's a game out there called The Dragon.
It's called The Dragon. No, yeah, you guys know dragon games. I don't. Things with dragons, I'm like, okay, whatever. But anyways, what he was doing was the same kind of game mechanics that you have in those games, where you can run up and you can swing, and the timing is
spot on.
Pretty much spot on.
Mm-hmm.
But these games, they have a delay, and so when you run up to Rock, I think what they're called. I can't remember. When you run up to these enemies in Zelda, though, and you try to swing your sword, there's a delay, and they're already moving at you. So he kept dying because he was using new game mechanics on an old game, and also because at one point he yelled, "There's not enough buttons. I don't understand." Because you just have A and B and start and select. Start and select don't do anything for you. I mean, you have your inventory and they pause, but that's it. You just have A and B. And he just didn't understand how to beat a game with such simple controls. So to your question, maybe for us as people who played NES, Super NES, and 64, PlayStation, growing up, Sega, we've evolved with the consoles, but the younger generation that's coming up that are born into these third and fourth generation consoles, they can't go back and play these games without frustration.
I also wonder if the same codes that worked for the older game, or for the older versions, will work on the new NES Classic.
That is a good question.
But I'm also pissed now that I had this code breaker contraption that you used to hook on to the game.
The Game Genie?
I had a Game Genie.
Yeah.
I had all that you used to hook on. And now I don't have any of that crap anymore. If I would have known they were going to be releasing this thing 20 years later or however many years later, I would have kept all that stuff around so that I could go back and beat those games again.
But you can't, because the NES Classic has different controller inputs, and everything is like, it has mini USB inputs instead of the 5-pin that they have. And I don't know, did you see how small it is?
No, I haven't seen it.
Okay, so
it sold out in like an hour.
Right, but the original Nintendo, we're all quite familiar how big the original Nintendo is.
Yes.
The classic Nintendo NES that came out this last week can almost fit inside where you put the game. Like, it is that small, which makes me think that it's supposed to be used inside my car for my kid when we're traveling because it's so tiny. I don't know. But yeah, you're not going to be putting any cartridges inside this thing. It's only for the emulated games.
Oh, okay.
But real fast, a couple more that we had were Ninja Gaiden, which that came from Glenn and Kong. Kong said Ninja Gaiden for sure. Only hard to impossible games are the best. And then he says so Contra counts too. Ninja Gaiden is super hard. At first when I started playing it, it reminded me of Castlevania. And Castlevania you can beat in 45 minutes, which is really still a fun game. But Ninja Gaiden, when you get into it, I spent probably 3 hours on it, and I don't think I beat the second level. I'm gonna be honest. I was getting wrecked, man.
And this is why I love the question of the week, because there are so all of these games I've played before, but you don't realize how many amazing games there were on the NES or the games that you grew up with. Maybe they're just amazing because it's nostalgia. But Ninja Gaiden, like I said, Excite Bike, Duck Hunt, Castlevania, those were, I remember them being great games.
Well, and then just thought we got 2 more real fast to go over. We have one more from our Facebook and one more from our YouTube comment section. We have Will, who said World Cup Soccer he thinks is the best game for NES. And I actually never played that. I do own that game, but I have not put it in my system to play it. Maybe because I'm not a huge soccer fan. But it's one of those games that people have, and you say, "Oh yeah, World Cup, I have that. We can play that real fast." It's a 2-player game, right? I don't know. I haven't put it inside my console, so I don't really know. And then our last one. Oh, did you have something?
No, go ahead and give the last one.
Yeah, our last one comes from our YouTube, from the Kiwi Man. He says Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link, Excite Bike, or Super Mario Bros. 3, or Final Fantasy. He gives a list. Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link is one that it broke away from, a lot like Super Mario Bros. 2 is a different format than its predecessor. It broke away from the top-down world view of Zelda and became a side-scroller. But there's a lot of grinding in that game, which if you don't know what grinding is, it's where you basically do the same thing over and over again to get enough rupees or to get enough experience points to obtain whatever you're trying to get. That's all I really know about Zelda 2, and so I don't have a lot to say about that one. But like you said, Excite Bike is one of the top games for sure. SMB 3 and then Final Fantasy, both, which 2 I referenced as well earlier.
I am surprised that there aren't more. We don't have more sports fans out there. Tecmo Bowl is another one that I would say was because unlike with Mario Brothers, especially the first Mario Brothers, it was just you.
Right.
You played by yourself. But with Tecmo Bowl, and I think that's the beauty of a lot of sports games. It gives you the opportunity to compete against your brother or your cousin, your dad in some cases, your mom in some cases. So I'm surprised that Tecmo Bowl isn't on there. Bo Jackson was unstoppable on Tecmo Bowl. If you played with the Giants, Lawrence Taylor on that defense, no one could playing with those two teams at the same time. That was the beauty of Tecmo Bowl, because no one was doing anything. But no, like I said, question of the week is probably one of my favorite segments, just because it gives us the ability to interact with our fans. They're a part of the show. They give us their answers. But you know what I'd like to do in the future? I would like for our fans to come up with the question of the week. Maybe not this week, but in the future. Leave us some comments below to continue this conversation. Let us know if there are any games we missed on, any games that you want to continue to talk about. But also let us know your ideas for future questions of the week. If we like them, maybe that'll be our next question of the week. We'll post that, and we'll also give you, the amateurs, credit for the questions that you come up with. It's not just about the questions. If you have comments about the trailers that we've talked about today, the movie that we're going to be reviewing, let us know down in the comments. Let us know on our Facebook page, Twitter, all are at Panel of Amateurs. It's not hard to find us. You just have to know how to type and use Google search.
Yeah, and if you know how to spell amateurs correctly, then you'll be able to find us easier.
E before the U, people. E before the U. Except for in our email, because we spelled it incorrectly.
Yes, I did that, which is fine, because you can contact us through Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, and we'll get back to you. We try to respond as quick as possible, so that we can be cool. All right, so here we are at the meat of our episode, and as what has become the usual, I did not watch this week's movie. So
can't count on you for anything, Peter.
Yeah, you just can't count on me. So I actually brought in some firepower, I guess you might call it. I brought in Josh Pfaff, who is a local filmmaker here in Springfield, Missouri. He works with a company called Locke and Stache, and he saw Arrival, so he's going to be taking my place to talk with you, Terry, about this film that you saw last week, and I did not.
All right.
Saw it last night, so, we'll see how it goes.
Welcome to Panel of Amateurs. So this week's movie review is Arrival, starring Amy Adams and Jeremy Renner, both who our fans will probably know from different comic book movies, especially this year with Batman vs. Superman, starring Amy Adams as Lois Lane, and Jeremy Renner, who is Hawkman in Marvel's Avengers franchise. So, Josh, tell us what you thought about the movie.
Yeah, so I went in not knowing a ton about it. I'd watched the trailer. Just some of my other film friends and stuff had mentioned that it was a really awesome movie. And I feel like that's kind of the trend right now. Is like some of the best movies coming out right now don't have a lot of like advertising behind it. Kind of like Hell or High Water was probably one of my favorite movies this year. I mean, not anymore because it's but no advertising, probably one of the best acting, I guess. But for me, I really liked how minimal they went with it. I mean, basically their tagline is a linguist is recruited by the military to assist in translating alien communication, and that's it.
Yeah,
So.
I was actually talking to Peter off air, and I think that as far as film and TV go, we are probably living in an era where these are some of the best TV shows we're getting, some of the best movies we're getting, and it's so good. The time that we live in, I think that we kind of downplay a lot of really good movies because 20, 30 years ago, if you got one good movie, like one great movie within a 2 or 3 year span, you were like that. Those are classics. Mm-hmm. But we're getting so many great films over and over and over again that it almost we don't put as much care into it as we should into actually what we're getting. But I was telling Peter that in the theaters now, I'm so used to going and seeing your big budget action movies that there was some time during this movie while I'm watching it, like I was kind of waiting for something to happen that wasn't going to come. Like I'm waiting for those explosions and things like that. And with a movie like this, I think it's more about how they develop the surprise at the end, or that when you get that aha moment, and that can make or break a film like this. And I thought that they handled that aha moment when you realize that what you thought you may have come to see, or that surprise where that you really understand the twist or what you're actually seeing. I thought that they handled that really well in this film, which is why I ended up liking Arrival quite a bit. It is probably one of the better films that I've seen this year. I would say on our rating system, it's hard for me to say our rating system. It's hard for, and I think our rating system is a little
too involved, maybe?
Yes. So it's going to sound weird when I say this. I don't think it's necessarily a movie that you have to see in theaters, but I will say that it's a movie you have to see.
Yeah. I mean, my only arguing point for seeing it in movies or in movie theater is the score. I don't know about you, but like Johan Johansson is like the composer for it. Mm-hmm. And
that is a great name.
Yeah,
like
he's from Iceland. He's pretty awesome, but he did
fantastic.
an incredible job with like everything. I don't know if that stuck out to you, but like the score really stuck out to me whenever I was watching it. Just like really with the pacing and everything.
Well, I will say probably 2 months ago, before we started this, none of that would have made a huge deal to me. But after working with Peter and his background in sound, there are things that I pick up in a movie or how they use sound, like you said, to pace the movie. And I thought everything about this movie was really well done.
Oh, yeah.
Me saying that they don't have to see it in theaters is more so on about what I just said, that we live in a society now where if it isn't this big budget action thriller over the top, you almost feel like you didn't get your money's worth when you go to the theater to see a movie if there's not, something exploding every 15 minutes, which you're not this is not an alien invasion movie. At the end of the movie, it's actually more so about time and what you do with it, and there's a hidden love story that you don't realize you've been watching until the end of the movie. That's more so what the movie was about for me than about the aliens. The aliens drew people in because people are going to go see it thinking they're going to get this, alien war story, and that's
not it at all.
That's not it at all.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I guess I'm always like really infatuated with the idea of like going to the movies. Like if it's going to be anything worth not hearing anything about it or like being totally immersed in like what's going on. I think one movie I wish I would have seen that Dennis, the director, did was Sicario, and that was Johan. He was on that as well. And if you watch Sicario, it's like the same, like pacing is just on point. The music is on point. Visuals are just like killer. But I think I wish I would have seen it in the movies, because as soon as you're at your house, there's just distractions, and I feel like if you can just totally be with the pacing in a movie theater, that's so real to me. So,
and I'll give you that. It's one of those movies where if you're not paying attention, like you can't get up and go and get a drink of water or go to the bathroom and just let it play through. You have to be paying attention, or you're gonna miss that giveaway. I don't know if you remember, the opening scene was with Amy Adams' character and her daughter. And I was watching that scene and I'm going, as her daughter aged in that scene, I'm going, well, why isn't she aging? Or there's no way that she's old enough to have a teenage daughter at the end of that scene. And as the movie started to unfold, I started to realize, wait, something's up with her flashbacks. That's adding up. Something is going on there. And it's things like that if you are not engaged in the movie, if you are at home, you aren't catching those things like you would be at the movie theater.
Then once you see those flashbacks, you're like, well, why am I seeing this flashback at this moment? Or so. But
no, even if you remember, the tone, the sound changed from what we'll now say, and if you haven't realized by now, spoiler alert. But the tone would change from the future scenes. The music they would use when they would flash back would be different, actually, than when they were in present day. So all in all, I enjoyed the movie. You're right in that, if you want to be completely focused and engaged in what you're seeing, the movies would be the best place for it.
I think to like put a comparison of like what kind of movie it would be, if I were to be like, what movie does it kind of like remind me of, and I'd say if it was like Interstellar and Inception like had a child on Earth, is what Arrival would be to me. Just because there's just a lot of things, there's a lot of moving parts within what's going on with Arrival, although it's extremely simple for an alien movie. I think that's really interesting for me, is like it's very simple, and I felt like that's kind of how Interstellar was. Like there's these really complex things that you could get really lost in. But they like really found a very simple, minimal way to like tell this story. Yeah.
So the story goes basically, as you said, there's these 12 alien pods that basically appear in different places on Earth, not major cities. So like in the United States, it's
like in Montana. Yeah.
And the story revolves around all these countries trying to figure out why these aliens are here and how to communicate with them and figure out if they're here for peace or if they're here for war. And I even found myself, as she is trying to figure out their language. Now, I have no background with linguists, or I speak one language. But I found myself, as she was going through, trying to figure it out, trying to remember if the previous symbol that they'd given her, how different it was from the one that they were giving now. So as she was learning, I found myself engaged in trying to learn, well, not learn, but trying to keep up with the story.
Yeah.
So you can miss things like that if there are distractions around. Yeah. But it's absolutely a movie that I would say you want to check out this year. Amy Adams was great in it. There's not a whole lot, there aren't a whole lot of characters that you have to follow. So it's not like they're giving you, 10 different storylines. It basically revolves around her character, her partner at the time, Jeremy Renner's character, who we eventually find out is her future husband. And it's basically this concept is that all time is existing at the same time. So she just
totally ruined it for Pete.
Totally ruined it. He was not going to see it. He was supposed to have seen it already. But it's that.
This is like, spoiler.
Basically,
he said spoiler.
I said spoiler.
Okay.
So Peter had the opportunity to leave.
This is your own fault, I guess.
I wanted to know.
But no, it is, and that's what the movie at the end became for me. Is it was a story of, there was her child, and she knew that her child was going to die. And Jeremy Renner's character never knew that. And she even mentioned that at some point he leaves her because of the choice she made to have this child, already knowing what was going to happen down the road. So that is more of what the story became. If you knew that there were certain things in your life that were going to happen, would you still make those choices? If you knew that you were going to have a child that was going to pass away before you did, of a rare disease, would you still make the choice to have that child?
So that goes back into a lot of the time travel type of conversations you and I've had many times. And if we're building off of the concept that all time happens at the same time, so past, present, and future are all the same, doesn't that leave you in the spot that it doesn't matter
Well, she did mention, her major question to him was, if you could see the future, would you change it? And then, he kind of goes into, explaining like his side of like not knowing what the future is, and when she can see the future, I think the thing that's interesting about her perspective on time is, as you learn this language, you start to understand how they view this language. So it's not like it's a universal language in the sense that as you learn this language, you start to understand that there is no past, there is no present, there is no future.
The time is linear.
And when these aliens are communicating to them, they communicate like this, like the beginning of the sentence and the end of the sentence. So they explain it as if they know the sentence already. So it's like encompasses this like knowing that, for humans, it was just like, this is current. What, asking these very basic questions when they're going beyond that. So, and it makes sense with the flashbacks, because whenever she starts to understand how they think, she starts to forget what is past, what is present, what is future. So she's saying she's using her future memories to figure out what she needs to do now. and even her previous memories to pull in from like what she needs in that current situation linearly. So it's pretty crazy. It's like there's a lot to it, but
because when we're seeing the movie, we think that we're at a certain starting point. But then as the movie goes on, we realize that we're not really that vision that she saw of her daughter passing away. We start to realize that we haven't gotten there yet. Because by the time the aliens arrive and she's on the ship, we're under the impression that her daughter has already passed away, that she has no husband, that her husband has left her.
Yeah.
This stuff has already happened. But as she starts to learn the language, like you said, you start to learn that the way the heptapods, and that's what they call the aliens, they don't see time they don't see time the same way that we view time. They view it, like I said, linearly. Did I get that right, Peter?
Yeah.
No,
time is linear for them.
Linear for humans. It's non-linear.
It's non-linear.
Yeah, it's non-linear for the
it's
aliens,
non-linear for the aliens. So it'd be, like he said, an example of a sentence. Imagine writing a sentence from both ends till you get to the middle.
And you start to figure that out. Her daughter's name is Hannah, and it's Hannah. So it's like you can write it.
I can write my first name with my left hand and my last name with my right hand at the same time. That we're talking about here.
Well, no. But it is interesting to watch her become more confused as she's figuring out this language. She's becoming more confused as to what timeline she's in, and by the end of the movie, the first time she hugs him, her husband, she says, I forgot how much I miss your hugs.
Yeah. And actually, that was the best line in the movie. That was one of the best lines in the entire movie.
That's the first time they hug, and it's like, oh.
But to answer your question, does that take away choice if you already know what's going to happen? And I think they actually visit this in the novel that this is based on. And choice or free will comes in deciding whether or not you want that future to be. Did you and she said it in the movie, would you still make this choice? That was a monumental
moment for her, as she asked her husband, like, if you could see the future, would you still do it? And her future is seeing that after this alien invasion, the next step is having a child and getting married to him, and then watching her go through this process. And he's like, I forget what he says, but basically he's like, I wouldn't change anything. He talks about talks about his love for her, and
digging deeper, if you think about her choice to not tell him, that was a choice she made to not tell him, because she knew that telling him, based on the way he reacted and her current visions, that he would have chosen not to have that child. So she still had free will or choice not to disclose that information to him.
But does she then take away his free will and choice?
His free will of choice.
Well, his choice is going to be if the future is bad, to not do that thing anyways. So, okay.
But he asks her, "Do you want to make a baby?" In a not weird way. It's like pretty right. But he's like, "Do you want to make a baby?" And that's like her decision to like, do I, knowing what this will be, do I still make that decision? But everything relies on her going on that path, because her daughter growing up is part of her learning this language. So part of her daughter growing up becomes like some of the most monumental parts of her discovering how to communicate with these aliens and how to work her problems out in the future, or in the beginning. So I know that it's a total mind bender, but I don't know if free will, but her decisions do kind of like, I feel like she has the ability to say yes or no to her future, but her future is depending on the world. So selfish or not selfish.
Right on.
So,
but again, that's why this is a movie you have to see, because even as well as we tried to explain it, it's still a movie that you have to see so that you can put all these concepts together.
Yeah.
Now, we've taken some of the surprise away from you as far as when you're seeing the movie, you kind of already know what's coming, but just to get a better understanding of the
acting is like how they approach it is what we're pulling out of that, you know.
Their approach to it. Like I said, you know, I keep going back to this, you know, just the simple fact of her putting those memories together as if this time has already happened, is even as they get to the climax, you start to realize, and she starts to realize, like as you go aha, she's going aha, like she starts to realize. Yeah. And I thought that was really cool that we get to that same aha moment at about the same time that she does.
Yeah.
And you see her start to put two and two together and figure out that she can draw on these memories. And it still makes me ask the question, if you already knew the future, if you already knew an outcome, would you still make the same choices? And that's what the movie became about for me. There was one question that they didn't really answer for me and that I'm still stuck on, is I want to know what the aliens needed help 3,000 years for. They never answered that question. That's the only question they left unanswered.
Yeah.
But I did want to know what, because that was their purpose. The gift they were giving us was the ability to see time non-linear. By understanding their language, we would be able to do so. But they would give us that gift, but they needed our help 3,000 years from now. But they never say what it is they need help with.
Yeah. Arrival 2.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's. I don't think this is gonna be. I don't think it would be something, but.
And that was something else we talked about off air, is the need for every film to be a franchise, where they leave every film open-ended with 1,000 questions, and you have to invest the next 10 years of your life to get through this trilogy. Mm-hmm. I feel like they answered all the questions but that one in this movie. I didn't walk away from the theater feeling like there's
something void. Yeah, I mean, I don't think that was their intentions at all. I mean, if that's the one question that's unanswered, I mean, in reality, you're getting down to the like relationships of a character like that. And it is 120% from the perspective of Amy Adams. Like they established that right at the beginning. You know, you discover what this weapon or what this language is as she is, and a lot of her future decisions are based off of those quick decisions within the alien invasion, I guess. I think one thing I do kind of want to point out that was like very real and really like pulled me into the story. I was talking to one of my buddies about this, and it sounds kind of weird, but he kind of said it felt kind of like whenever the aliens like came to the planet, it kind of was. It wasn't like a, oh my goodness, the world's gonna end like kind of thing, but it was he kind of compared it to like 9/11 in the sense that although there's something monumental happening, you don't know it until like you're still doing your daily routine. Like she still goes to her classroom to teach, language, and everyone's freaking out and no one really knows what's going on, and it takes you turning on the news. And even when you turn the news on, there's all these different sources, and I really, really liked seeing that from her perspective. The one person who's going to change things is just kind of like also trying to figure out what's going on, and it brought a very human element to alien invasion.
It was
movies,
really, but like you said, there was a really great human feel to it because of the fact that you had, what would really happen in an event like this, where you've got 12 different nations who all have different languages that they speak, trying to figure this out. And when China was ready to go to war, you had other nations that were willing to follow suit, and other nations that were hesitant about it. So it was almost, who's going to pull the trigger?
Yeah.
Is she going to figure this out before some nation causes all-out war between us and whatever these things are, the heptapods?
Yeah. They did a good job at showing her side of like she needs time, And that's everything the world doesn't want, is she needs time to figure out this language and figure out these people and what they're needing. And all the major population is just like, we need to get rid of them. We need to, like, casting in their own opinions when there's little to no information being translated.
And it was the misunderstanding of one word. What they were saying is, we're here to give you this, and other nations were getting weapon, when they were really trying to say gift.
Yeah. And it said use weapon, and it's like, use weapon to us means use weapon on each other, and they start to think, all the nations start to separate and do their own thing, and it is interesting how mistranslation within, and that happens all the time, mistranslation within all the countries, and especially with aliens, like so I think that was interesting. Very interesting.
We basically got two sides of this whole thing. You say go see it in theaters.
Oh yeah.
I say go see it. However you want to.
Yeah.
Make sure this is one of those movies where you'll want to have seen. If you're a movie lover like we all obviously are, this is one of those that you'll want to have seen, because people are going to be talking about it. And I don't know if it's award worthy, but there was a lot of good work done in this movie. And this is one that'll make you think. We get a lot of popcorn movies where you just, we talked about Triple X Return of Xander Cage last week. The trailer for that.
It's not a spoon feeder. That's exactly what I'd say. It's not a spoon feeder. So
this is one where you're gonna enjoy it. You want to pay attention to it. It's gonna make you think about a lot of different things, and it'll bring up a lot of different emotions.
If I had to say,
am I gonna cry if I watch this movie? Because I cried, dude.
Yeah, I would have cried, but
I cry like pretty easily.
I thought about it.
I don't know that it's a tearjerker.
Like in Interstellar. When he
if you cried in Interstellar, I cried in Interstellar.
Oh
so.
Man, that was.
It's one of those movies that makes me like remember why I love cinema. I really would. So it's like, oh wow, like you when you walk out of a movie theater and you have that feeling of like you're still totally entranced with like what's going on. I feel like that's what movies are for me. That's like
it's cool. A date movie. It's a movie that you can take your wife. Your wife would enjoy it.
It's PG-13, so
yeah. Can I take my infant child?
Probably wouldn't. No.
Okay.
I think you having a daughter makes it worse. So
that's true.
You're probably gonna cry.
Okay.
So
if she's sleeping, then yes.
Yeah. She's not gonna sleep through the whole movie.
But watching it, it's not like she's gonna get the concept that's going on. But I've seen plenty of people take infant children to big time movies.
Oh, Star Wars wise, the DP for Arrival is going to be the DP for the Han Solo. So
oh, nice.
Yeah, he's pretty awesome. He did Selma as well. So
if you don't know what DP stands for, it's the director of photography.
Yeah, sorry, cinematographer. Yeah. Some people.
Do you want to explain what a DP does real fast?
Yeah. So a cinematographer is basically works hand in hand with the director in making sure that all the visual elements are carried out. So they're the ones that are like working with the camera operator and the gaffer and the lighting and all that stuff. So yeah. Sorry, I nerd out on cinematography, so because that's kind of what I really like. So. And
that's why I brought you here. Thanks. So I didn't have to watch the movie. But now
yeah.
I'm going to have to.
So, but I also usually like to watch like a movie a couple times. Because if I only see it once, then all I'm going to be paying attention to is like how they do the shot. What were they using for lighting and all that stuff. So this is definitely one where I was just like only story.
Only story.
So.
It was a good one.
Yeah.
You missed out, Peter.
Thanks, guys.
You still need to go see it, even though we ruined it for you.
It's okay. My wife hasn't seen it, so it won't be ruined for her. It'll be like, I can watch her face when they hug at the end. And oh wait, my wife listens to this podcast.
don't let her watch it.
This is the
yet.
1 week we time code everything.
Yeah.
She can skip past the review for this.
Yeah,
that's true. Josh, thanks so much for coming and taking my spot today and talking with Terry about Arrival. I'm really grateful that you're able to help us out. And if you guys get a chance, check out lockeandstache.com. That's LOCKEANDSTACHE. ANDSTACHE.com.
Wow.
Lots of vowels.
Yeah, thanks for having me on anytime. So it was fun.
Are there any projects that you're currently working on that you want to tell our listeners about?
Yeah, so we're just basically working on some commercials and some nonprofit stuff. So nothing I can say yet, but we definitely have some pretty awesome projects coming down the pipeline.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Well, here we are, Terry, at the end of our show. It was a great interview with Josh. It's great to have local people that we can have on the show and help out.
Having a guest on was amazing. If we have any amateurs out there, we'd like to promote other amateurs, other people who are trying to get their projects off the ground. If you are available for interviews or have questions for us, please let us know, and that way we can get in touch with you and see about setting something up. Definitely.
Now, one thing that we do like to do every week, as you guys know, is the question of the week. This week's question, we're going to kind of continue on with that video game kind of thread. And the question is, what is your favorite two-player competitive game? So we're not talking about Mario and Luigi trying to get to the princess together. We're not talking about other co-op games like Donkey Kong Country when you're working together. We're talking about competitive games. So a lot of them are going to be sports games.
Next week is Thanksgiving, and we want to know, when you and your family get together, it can be Wii bowling.
Yeah.
But what competition games do you all enjoy playing the most? Let us know down in the comments.
Well, Terry, it's been a great episode. I look forward to this next week for Thanksgiving. I'll see you then.
All right, see you next week. If you're interested in checking out any of the trailers that we've talked about today, you can find them here. And also, if there's an episode you missed, you can find that here.